The whisper came through the vent first, too close, like someone had their mouth pressed to the metal. "Open up." Then a hard jolt on the handle, a single slam that shook dust from the doorframe. My phone lit my palm. Unknown number. Let me in. Footsteps stopped right outside. Just the soft scrape of a shoe pivoting. Someone else's phone buzzed, then died. The PA had cut off mid-sentence, leaving the room dark, chained, and guessing. 3 rooms, 3 lockdowns. The same sick feeling. No help, no clear voice, and the worst part, someone you think you know, suddenly wrong. Story 1. The choir room lockdown. We were seniors stuck in the choir room when the tone hit, that long rising wail followed by the admin voice, "This is a..." and then it just chopped. Lights blinked. Our teacher wasn't there, she was signing out sheet music. 40 chairs, black risers, a baby grand that smelled like lemon oil and dust. The door's latch always stuck. You had to slam it to catch. And now, we couldn't make a sound. Phones went face down. We pushed the risers and the piano against the door, felt the metal legs shudder. The window in the door was the size of a book and already papered. I could still see a shadow sliding across the lower seam, long and thin like a cattail, a doorknob silhouette stretched by the exit light in the hall. Someone coughed in the corridor. Then nothing. Our group chat lit up. Unknown number dropped in like it belonged there. "This is Coach M. I need you to open. I'm stuck." The spelling was perfect. The tone felt clipped, like him. The bass in my chest went cold. Someone whispered, "That's his cadence," like the texts were words we could hear. The latch clicked once, softly soft, a fingernail on metal. We all held our breath. A quiet tapping came at the tiny window. 1, 2, 3. Lazy, like boredom. A sophomore started hyperventilating. I put my hand on his back and counted our breaths together. 8 in, 4 out, slow, slow, slow. He nodded, eyes wet, lips pressed to his sleeve. More texts. "Hurry, try the latch." Another number chimed in with a grainy hallway photo. Fluorescent light, tile floor, a blur like a leg. He sent it as a live photo. One of us pressed it, and the sound popped. A weird metallic clank, like the gym bleachers being rolled. The timestamp was wrong by hours. "This hallway doesn't have those lockers," someone mouthed. The group split down the middle, one half swearing it was Coach M, the other whispering spoof. Meanwhile, the building felt like it exhaled. The AC died. The room warmed a degree you could feel on your cheek. Far away, something heavy hit concrete. Then the tapping stopped, and the handle dropped. A slow, heavy weight settled against the door. The latch dragged in its slot. The piano legs squealed. "Don't move," I breathed. The metal held. A thin, low voice from the vent. "Coach, open." The vent was above the risers, too close to our faces. We slid the piano tighter. The hinge screamed. The voice came again, calm and weirdly patient. "Don't make me get admin." Someone near the back typed, thumbs shaking, not to the unknown number, but to the real Coach M's contact, the one we had saved from practice cancellations. It rang. We all heard it, a muffled chirp, inside the building. Wrong direction. Above us, faint. Ceiling space. That was the first moment I felt something like anger cut through the fear. The doorknob turned harder. The latch halfway slid. We threw more weight on it. Risers, a stack of black folders, the rolling music stand. My arm shook so bad the stand rattled against my wrist bone. The sophomore counted breaths again, but this time for me. "I'm with admin, open now." Then another text. "I'll have to mark you insubordinate." We stared at the word. Nobody uses that in a panic. We killed every phone screen we could reach so no light would bleed. The room settled into this gritty quiet, sneaker rubber against carpet, a faint sweet smell from the piano polish, someone's gum mint leveled to cardboard. Parallel sounds carried through the cinder block, metal hitting metal from the gym, then the squeak of a cart, then a key sliding into a lock nearby. A wrong key. It scratched. Tried again. Farther down the hall, the same scrape. Someone was moving door to door. The vent hissed. A voice, lower now, like a throat pressed to dust. Open. A beat. I can mark you safe. That's what did it. Our teacher, missing, always said the opposite. Nobody marks safe until officers clear. No one says safe in the middle. That word felt like a cold hand on my neck. The pressure on the door eased. We waited for the fake all clear, the shout, the trick. Instead, silence as thick as the foam panels on the walls. Then, outside, sirens. Closer, stopped, nothing. The unknown number sent a final picture of the hallway, this time clear. The exit sign glowing red. Our exit sign glowing green. Different wing. 3 dull booms shook the building, side entrance breaching. Boots in the hall. The handle still. Our phones stayed dead-faced. We didn't move. When the knock came, it was the trained pattern. The voice used the phrase we'd practiced. 2 officers' names we knew, said in order, with the question we were taught to answer in silence. We kept quiet until the door key turned from the outside and the latch gave clean. Flashlights, shields, real uniforms. When they rolled the piano back, the riser scraped a stripe in the floor we all stared at like a wound. They never caught whoever pressed that door. They found scuff marks on the frame, dust on the vent cover disturbed by fingers, and a print too smudged to match. We learned one thing that night. Verify the voice through a number you already have, not a number that finds you. Trust the latch you can see over the text you can't. And if the door can hold, make it hold. While the choir room held the door, across campus a junior chem class was counting drops into a burette when the chase spilled off campus and the principal's voice cracked on the PA. Ahem, lock, then a hiss, like the mic got dragged across carpet. Doors clicked shut. The teacher, Miss Han, checked the lock twice and flicked off the lights. Hoods snapped down over the sinks, phones low, faces lower. Everyone breathed through their sleeves. They were mid-text to parents when the PA popped again. All clear, it said. Bright. Calm. Too calm. Miss Han didn't move. She kept her hand on the door like she was feeling for a pulse. We never relocked, she whispered. Stay down. The sub down the hall opened their door. The hinges cried. Miss Han's jaw tensed. The voice returned, warmer, like it learned. Miss Hannah, take your students to the cafeteria. She flinched. People called her Han. No one added the extra syllable. Heads lifted, shocked, silent. Row 3 first, the PA cooed. Evan, can you help? Evan froze. No one used his name over the PA. It slid into the room like a hook. He slid lower behind the lab bench, heart in his mouth. A text from the district app blinked. Remain locked down. Another text, different header font. Proceed to staging area. Conflicting. Miss Han mouthed, ignore, and pointed to the floor. The substitute across the hall poked his head out again, stage whispering. They said all clear. He had a faculty badge on a lanyard, but it looked newly laminated, edges too sharp. The classroom phone on the wall sat like a relic. A student, Tess, crawled and lifted the receiver, dialing the main office by muscle memory. It rang in her ear. Then a second ring, inside their room. The wall speaker ticked with each chime. She set the phone down like it burned. A paper slid under the door from next door. Block letters. PA is lying. Stay put. The whole room sucked in air. Ms. Han dragged the emergency shower pole across the threshold and wedged it under the handle, her hands steady even as her breath stuttered. Nobody opens for a voice, she whispered. You open for a key. The PA squealed, a thin feedback whistle, like cheap karaoke gear. Okay, new plan, it said. Small groups, cafeteria. Quietly now.
It said a last name, mispronounced, then a nickname exactly right. Kids stiffened. That nickname lived only in group chats in the back row. A locker banged in the corridor, then another. A line of slams moving down the hall in order, like someone hitting them with a palm, counting. The substitute rattled their handle. "We have to go," he said, voice pitching up. No one moved. A kid reached up and slapped duct tape over the PA speaker, then shoved a chemistry binder into the frame. The room felt smaller, safer for being quieter. The voice muffled into a sad parent trapped behind drywall. "Don't do that," it said, the friendliness thinning out. Tess typed the nurse's office into her phone to try a different line. No data. She stared at the reflection in the black screen, her eyes and a bright rectangle of the door window. The PA said a street name, then a house number, Evan's address. He made a sound, tiny. Miss Han looked at him, shook her head once, eyes saying stay with me. Later they'd learn a nurse's laptop went missing the week before. In that moment, it felt like someone was standing in the living room of every kid in the class. "Power," Miss Han mouthed, and 2 students crawled to the breakers and killed the switch for the room lights. The emergency strips glowed faint. They stacked stools quietly along the interior wall, leaving sightlines to the door. Miss Han slid a metal cart in front of the lock, without rattling a wheel.
From the hallway, a scrape against cinder block, a shoe pivot, the handle quivered, the sub hissed, "Now." And they heard his key fumble, metal on metal, the way someone pretends they have authority. Ms. Han raised her palm flat, and everyone stilled. The cart absorbed the tug. The pole flexed and held. Then the fire alarm ripped the ceiling. Sirens blared. The sub shouted, "Evacuate!" Students looked to Ms. Han. She shook her head. "No smoke," she said, and yet there was a smell, sweet, plastic, wrong. Something foggy licking beneath the doorlight. Hearts avalanched. A kid whispered, "Fire." Ms. Han closed her eyes, inhaled once, then listened. No heat, no crackle, just the faint whir of a cheap machine. Theatre kids kept a fogger in the black box. The scent matched pep rally days. "Hold," she said, and they did, even as the fire march pounded past. Parallel to the noise, the lockers stopped slamming. Footsteps slowed outside their door. A pause. Then the handle tried again, a little wiggle like a tease. The pole bowed and snapped back with a clunk. The PA muffled, "Chem 223, move!" It was almost pleading now. A kid pressed another layer of tape over the speaker until the words smudged into air. Down the hall, boots, crisp commands. Someone shouted, "Amplifier closet!" And there was a thunk as a panel opened. The PA died mid-syllable, like it got its cord yanked. The alarm kept screaming. The fog ebbed. Later they'd learn a patched-in device was sitting in an auxiliary amp room with a microphone and a stolen laptop, feeding names like seeds into a grinder. The sub pounded the door again, then went quiet. When the officer's pattern finally hit, a rhythm they knew from drills, Ms. Han didn't answer. She waited for the second verification, the question we were taught to not respond to, followed by the key. It came. The door opened to vests marked, faces they knew from assemblies. The sub was in the hall, hands up, shaking, verified later. The person in the amp closet slipped a service hatch and was gone. They rolled the cart back. The pole thunked loose. No one stood for a long second, like their legs forgot them. The takeaway wasn't a slogan. It was plain. An all clear means nothing if it isn't doubled. When the voice knows your name, trust the lock. And if the speaker turns against you, make it shut up. Story 3. The Dark Hallway. First thing that died was the intercom. Second was the AC. Third was every single bar on every phone. The room went from buzzing to grave quiet in one breath. Freshman English, posters curling at the corners, a narrow door window already covered in butcher paper. Our teacher, Ms. R., slid the deadbolt, turned off the lights and the routine we all knew. Sit low, phones dark, backs to the interior wall. Don't talk. Breathe. I remember watching her hands. They shook for 1 second, then went still. Too still. Like she'd practiced them into perfect calm. My stomach knotted. The silence wasn't empty. It had texture. A little up in the ceiling tiles. Somewhere in the pipes. A tiny where the projector had cooled. A kid near me typed anyway, thumbs flying, no service. He typed, "Love you," to his mom and kept typing, sending nothing into a void. He didn't stop. It was something for his hands to do. Across the door, a shadow passed once, stretched, then vanished. No footfalls, just the suggestion of wait. We heard, in the hallway, that quick, decisive, then they stopped right outside. No breathing, no whisper, just that presence pressing through the door like heat. Ms. R tilted her head. Then there was not random, a pattern we all recognized from drills, but at the end, one extra, sharp, wrong. I felt my chest get tight. Ms. R didn't move. "We hold," she breathed. The knob didn't turn. A voice outside, calm, familiar, our counselor. "It's me," she whispered. "We're changing protocol. Storage closet now." The words were right. The tone was right. But last week during drills, the rule was opposite. Don't move during blackout. Ever. A kid near the door scribbled on a sheet, slid it under. "What's the phrase?" The paper slid back. The phrase was off by 1 word. Close enough to make your brain want it. Not exact enough to open. That's when the ceiling, like a cable dragged across ductwork. Another. Someone's breath hitched. Ms. R didn't text. She didn't radio. She just stared at the door, hand hovering over the handle, muscles taut. "New protocol," she whispered again, as if convincing herself. My skin crawled. If the counselor was real, why did the pattern have an extra knock? Why did the phrase sound rehearsed? From the library side of the building, we heard a cart. Short, long, short. The same wrong knock moved room to room like a song with a sour note. Somewhere down the hall, a chair, then a muffled voice. "Stay." I caught Ms. R's wrist just as her fingers closed around the handle. She looked at me, eyes wide and blank. "We have to go," she mouthed. I shook my head. No verification, no second check. She stared at me like I was the grown-up. The voice outside tried again. Same rhythm, same added. "Closet now. It's safe." My spine lit up. Safe. That word doesn't come until after. It was the same tell as earlier. Someone dressing up authority with the wrong vocabulary. Ms. R swallowed. My fingers dug into her sleeve. We held like that, breath for breath, and I could feel her pulse hammering. Then, faint through glass, somewhere outside, a bullhorn. The real counselor's voice, hoarse from projection, not whispering, the phrase delivered correctly. The names of officers we'd practiced with, in the right order. The question we were trained not to answer. It drifted in like a lifeline from another building. At our door, the whisper repeated the wrong phrase, a hair off. Every hair on my arms lifted. The knob turned. Hard. Screws groaned. The top hinge pinged. We shoved the nearest bookcase against the door. Desks slid. A projector cart bumped my shin. The first push bowed the door. The second made the screws squeal and settle. Ms. R finally moved with purpose, bracing her shoulder into the bookcase, her breath short and furious now, not calm at all. Inside the ceiling, the scraping stopped. Silence pooled. Then a drip again. The hallway heels resumed, but softer, like someone walking on the edges of their shoes. The knock pattern repeated 2 rooms down. The janitor cart's squeak circled back. It felt like a loop, replaying to catch someone tired enough to believe. We held for minutes that felt like hours. No texts, no updates. The intercom stayed dead. The air got stale and warm. A girl started shaking quietly, teeth chattering without sound. I slid my knee against hers until she matched my breathing. 8 in, 4 out. We counted with our chests. The handle twitched once more, then let go. When the officers finally reached our wing, we heard their boots first, then their pattern. Clean. No extra knock. The phrase perfect. The second verification followed, bullhorn this time from the hall. We stayed quiet until the key hit and turned. The door opened slow under the weight of the bookcase. 2 officers we recognized, faces open, hands visible. Ms. R's shoulders dropped so fast she almost fell. Later, we'd learned the building's emergency repeater had been disconnected by a contractor doing after-hours work, and the paper credential used up the hall was a color photocopy, not embossed, not real. Whoever knocked vanished into a blind corner before cameras came back. What stuck wasn't the what, it was the how. The voice sounded almost right. The knock almost right. The teacher we trusted acted off by a degree. That's the part that rattled me the most. How thin the difference is between safe and wrong when the sound cuts out. We kept one rule and it held. If you can't verify, you don't move. Patterns matter, phrases matter, and students can be part of the lock. We were. Story 4. The gym bleachers. The gym eats sound. Everything in there echoes twice and comes back thinner. We were mid-practice when the lockdown tone dropped and the wall speakers clipped out. 2 coaches, 2 plans. Head coach shoved us under the retractable bleachers, whispering for phones off, bodies low, push deep. Assistant coach kept looking at the side exit like it was calling his name. Bus ramp, he breathed. We can slip out. We slid into the ribs of the bleachers, metal rails cold on our forearms, dust, sweet and stale. Somewhere in that darkness, a pair of shoes clicked against metal and stopped. The head coach killed the light over the scoreboard and crouched with us. "Stay down," he said. His voice had gravel. The assistant paced by the sideline door, phone in his hand, screen brightness turned down. "All clear's coming any second," he said. "I've got a text." The PA crackled. "All clear," it said, smooth as a phone ad, but only the gym speakers woke up. The hallway stayed dead. The head coach shook his head hard. "We haven't re-locked. That's not ours." The assistant raised his phone like proof. "Admin says move," he whispered. No one saw the message. He kept angling his body, thumbs going, like he didn't want anyone to read over his shoulder. Half the team wriggled deeper, dry metal biting their elbows. The rest looked at the assistant, and then at the door's exit bar, that thin strip of promise. "5 at a time," he said. "Quiet." He cracked the door. Cold air wove in. The head coach hissed, "No." The split started with a single knee shuffling toward daylight. It widened into a choice. I stayed. Captain, but not in charge of the adults. We wedged the shot put cart and 2 weight plates under the lowest rail, building a hard stop for the first pull. Someone's phone glowed by accident. A slat caught the light and tossed it back like a flag. We smothered it with a sweatshirt. Under us, gum wrappers, a lost mouthguard, grit that stuck to palms. The assistant slipped his group through the side door. It sighed shut and left the gym bigger and emptier. The PA spoke again, thinner now, like it was traveling through a straw. "All clear for the gym only." The words bounced off the ceiling banners. The hallway door near the concession stand opened and whispered closed. Sneakers squeaked once, then nothing. We sunk deeper, pulled our knees up, kept our shoes flat. A strip of light ran under the bleacher slats like a horizon line. Footsteps approached, slow, deliberate, toes first. A phone flashlight fizzed on. It crawled across the slats, thin bars of white scanning the dust. It hit somebody's soul. Bright. The beam froze on that rubber pattern. My heart jammed. We all tried to be smaller than bones. The light drifted, hunting. The head coach pinched his fingers and pointed left. Decoy. We left a backpack near the edge before we slid in. I palmed a small Bluetooth speaker and clicked it with my nail, turned the volume to a hair, and cued static from an old white noise app. I set it by the decoy,
speaker facing out. The hiss was mosquito-thin but real. The light snapped toward it. The figure crouched. A hand reached through the slats, fingertips black with dust, fishing for a zipper pull. The hallway door handle jiggled. Parallel motion. 2 points of pressure now, the light and the lock. We crawled silently to the far exit ladder, moving one at a time, elbows first, breath trapped in our tongues. The metal complained in these tiny high squeaks, and every squeak felt like a shout. We froze between each one until the sound bled into the gym's natural echo. My phone buzzed once in my pocket with a delayed text, parent group chat. I risked a glance. I sent one pin earlier. It still spun. Now the assistant coach texted the team. Selfie, outside, grinning tight. Out. Clear. The exit sign behind him glowed a pale green in the photo. Our side door signs were red. Different door, different hall. The head coach read over my shoulder, eyes narrowing. "Don't move," he mouthed. His jaw flexed. The flashlight reached the bag. A hand shook it. The Bluetooth hiss stuttered and went to static storm. The figure swore, low, a twist of consonants. The light lifted, scanning again. It brushed my fingers, my knuckle glowing for a heartbeat. I pressed my hand into the grit until it hurt. Outside perspective cut through. Muffled commands from the far cafeteria doors, boots, the low bark of a K9. The main doors banged once, twice, 3 times. Police were in the building now, and the gym turned into a waiting room for whatever the figure chose next. The light moved toward the static again, then exactly away from us. It worked. We gained 5 feet that felt like a mile.
The hallway handle tried a full pull. Our plates bit. The cart creaked. It held. The figure stood. The phone light turned off, and the gym fell into a dark so pure it rang in your ears. My muscles trembled. I counted breaths in tens and tried to make no sound at the top. The side door opened again, soft, quick. The assistant coach poked his head in, eyes wide. "Come now," he whispered, urgent. The voice caught in the echo wrong. He raised his phone again. That same selfie, same wrong sign. The head coach shook his head one more time, a small shake that felt like an anchor. We stayed. A whistle chirped from the far door. 2 short, 1 long, the verification we knew from drills. Then the bullhorn, the phrase correct, the officer names in order. The ladder at our end clanged softly. We slid toward it like animals, controlled, tight. The weight plates stayed until hands in vests moved them. "Don't speak," someone said, and we didn't, not even when we saw the dog's ears and wanted to cry from relief. They pulled us through the far door, one by one, hands under our arms. The figure with the light was gone. The assistant was outside with the other group, detained, checked, cleared, shaking. Later, we learned the gym PA had a separate amp that someone piggybacked a phone into. The "all clear" only we heard wasn't real. The selfie proof had a tell, wrong sign color for that exit. The decoy bought us the seconds we needed. What stuck with me wasn't the almost, it was the decision to keep the boring rule. Don't split without a real directive. Read the room itself, signs, sounds, the way doors answer back. And if you're stuck in a wide open place built for noise, go narrow, go quiet, go deep. The bleachers held, so did we. Aftermath. What they carried home. The noise didn't end with the sirens. It followed people home. Evan said the attic fan sounded like the PA warming up, and he'd bolt upright in bed, heart sprinting. The choir kid couldn't stand lemon cleaner anymore. The smell yanked him straight back to the piano. A freshman started sitting with her back against the kitchen island every dinner because the dining chair put her spine to a doorway. Small things. Loud inside. Teachers changed too. Miss Han kept a folded door wedge and a tourniquet in a zip pouch in her bag next to a pack of gum. She never advertised it. She just felt for it twice every morning, like checking keys. Ms. R moved a bookcase 2 inches to hush a rattle that used to be nothing, and that tiny silence became her proof the room could be still. Head coach started every practice with 60 seconds of dead quiet. Phones off, not as punishment, just rehearsal for breathing. Nightmares ran a loop for a while. Heels in the hallway, a phone light crawling under metal, the wrong knock. You wake up convinced it's back, and you stand in the dark, listening past the fridge hum for a pattern that isn't there. Some kids transferred seats to the end of rows near doors. Others picked the deepest corners. Friend groups got weirdly tight. People who braced doors together started sharing snacks and long looks during fire drills. They had a language of raised eyebrows and finger taps that said, "We're okay, right?" The adults went hunting for holes. The district embossed IDs with a texture you could feel with your thumb and added a hologram that refused to photocopy clean. PA authentication changed. No single closet, no single device, two-step sign-in with a rolling code. They ran a cable to give the repeater backup power, so one unplugged bracket wouldn't slash the whole building's voice. None of it felt like a victory lap. It felt like sandbags before a storm you can't see. Cops traced pieces. They found scuffs. They found the amp hack. They found where a fog machine went missing and came back sticky. They didn't publish a motive. They didn't name anyone. That left space in people's heads for what-ifs. Maybe that's worse. But inside that uncertainty, students started collecting their own anchors. Verify with numbers you already have. Hold the perimeter. Kill the light on speakers that lie. Tape helps. Poles hold. Wheels squeak. You can hear them coming. Micro-stories kept surfacing. The sophomore from choir started counting breaths for anyone who needed it, even in math class before a quiz. Tess keeps a strip of gaffer tape in her pencil pouch like a lucky charm. One kid can't sit with his back to a door, so his friends swap chairs without a word every period. A custodian added felt pads to the loudest carts after hours because the squeak had turned into a trigger. Parents showed up at board meetings asking about dead zones. A mom brought a portable cell booster brochure and handed copies down the row like a church program. Student council petitioned for door hardware that holds under pressure without needing a slam to latch. It wasn't panic, it was practice. What stayed with everyone wasn't a face. Most never saw one. It was the presence in the pauses, the extra knock, the wrong word, the way silence got teeth. You learn to live inside that by choosing the boring choice every time. Make the door a wall. Make the room small. Let the protocol be the hero, not the person who thinks they can negotiate with a voice in a vent. Conclusion. The scariest part wasn't the intruder. It was how fast certainty evaporated when the lights died and familiar voices bent a syllable off. If you want more true stories about blackouts, false all clears, and the tricks that mess with your head, watch the next one I linked. Subscribe if this helped you think through the quiet parts of a lockdown, and leave a comment with any verified tips that kept you calm. I still hear the wrong knock sometimes, and I breathe, count to 8, and choose the boring rule again.